Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pods. I am Leonardo.
Whoa, and I'm Elizabeth.
Today, we are diving into something a little different, like really different.
Different good or different,
Oh, definitely different good. Today, we are exploring an essential topic for anyone looking to excel in English. All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, we'd love to really get into the nitty-gritty
Absolutely.
of all sorts of topics.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we have a whole stack of sources, but this time,
This is a new one.
it's a little different.
Yeah, this is
It's a really, really different
it's
one.
like a deep dive into the deep dive.
It is. So
Well,
we only have a single,
Oh, wow. A single sentence?
it's a fragment.
A fragment? Wow.
And that's all we have to go on.
Okay.
So it's like we're doing a deep dive
Yeah.
in Duolingo English Test. You came to the right place. We've got a ton of info, articles, websites, all that good stuff to help you absolutely crush this test.
Yeah, it's becoming super popular. It's a really good alternative to some of the bigger tests out there.
For sure. For sure. If you're listening to this and you're like, wait, what's this Duolingo test thing? It's an online English proficiency exam.
Mhm.
And a lot of universities, institutions all over the world will take this as proof that you know, that you got the English skills.
Exactly. And what's interesting is how it's different from TOEFL IELTS. You know, those big traditional tests. Mentor Language Institute actually has a really good breakdown of this on their website. And honestly, the advantages are pretty huge.
Yeah, for real. First off, the Duolingo English test. You can finish the whole thing in an hour. You're not spending half your day at a testing center.
Exactly. And the cost is crazy different, too. Like in the US, it's only $45 compared to like hundreds of dollars for those other tests. Plus, you can take it anywhere. Any computer, internet connection, you're good to go.
Oh my gosh, the convenience factor is huge, especially if you don't live near a big city. You don't have to worry about like finding a test center and booking it months in advance. But here's where it gets really interesting. The test actually changes as you go.
Yeah, they have this adaptive difficulty thing, so the questions get harder or easier, depending on if you're getting stuff right or wrong.
So it's kind of like it's personalizing the test for you as you go. You're not wasting time with questions that are too easy or getting completely stuck on things that are way above your level.
Right. It finds that sweet spot.
I know. Prepping for any standardized test can feel a little overwhelming. But that's why we're here. We're doing this deep dive. We're going to help you cut through all the noise and focus on what really matters to succeed.
You got to understand the format, know what to expect, and just practice the right way.
And that's where these sources come in. So like I was reading this blog by Arno, who's like this Duolingo English Test guru. And he had this tip that kind of blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Duolingo will actually try to trick you with some of the answer choices, especially in the vocabulary and listening sections.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'll give you answers that look right at first glance. But if you're not really paying attention, you'll fall right into their trap.
Wow. So they're really testing. Like, if you're really thinking critically about the language and the context, not just recognizing words.
Exactly. And Arno gives some examples in his blog. And some of these traps are pretty sneaky. Like they'll give you a synonym for the right answer, but it doesn't quite fit in the sentence. Or they might use a word that looks really similar to the right one, but means something totally different.
Oh, wow. So you can't just like memorize a ton of vocab. You got to know how to use it for real.
Yeah, exactly. And this kind of leads into another important point that Arno made. Since the test adapts to you, trying to go super fast won't actually help.
Right. It's not a speed run. It's about showing off what you know.
Exactly. In fact, he recommends using all the time they give you, especially for the writing and speaking parts. You know those parts where you really have to think?
Right. You got to explain your thoughts and ideas. Rushing through that is just going to lead to mistakes. You need time to craft those responses.
Totally. It's quality over quantity. And this is a perfect time to talk about something that came up in pretty much all of our sources. The production subscore.
Ooh, yes. Tell our listener what that is all about.
So the production subscore is all about your speaking and writing skills. And according to Arno, this is both the hardest and the easiest part of the exam to improve.
Wait, how can it be both?
I know, right? But think about it. It's the hardest because for most people, speaking and writing in a second language, that's what they struggle with the most.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a lot of practice to get confident with that.
But it's also the easiest to improve because if you put in the effort, if you learn the right strategies, you can see huge improvement in your production score.
I see. So it's like the Achilles heel of the test. You got to focus on it or it'll trip you up.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about some proven strategies for those speaking and writing sections.
Can't wait.
But first, we got to address the elephant in the room. Just practicing random questions isn't enough.
Oh, absolutely not. You got to be way more strategic than that.
And that's where the expert insights come in handy. Both Arno and Mentor Language Institute. They talk about how important quality practice is. It's not about quantity.
So it's not about just doing as many practice questions as possible.
Nope.
You got to pick the right materials and focus on your weak spots.
Exactly. And you got to get feedback. You got to learn from your mistakes. Mentor Language Institute even suggests creating your own practice questions.
Oh, wow. That's a really good idea. So you're not only testing yourself, but you're also really understanding each type of question.
Yeah. And for speaking and writing, they recommend scripting out sample answers.
Oh, that's smart. Like rehearsing for a performance?
Exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
Speaking of being prepared, I got to share this sneaky but totally allowed tip from Arno. This is about the interactive listening section.
Ooh, tell.
So you're listening to this simulated conversation and answering prompts. But get this, after you're done with the conversation, you can scroll back up and reread the whole thing.
Wait, really? Even the parts where I messed up?
Yep, you can see the right answers, which is super helpful when you have to summarize the whole conversation at the end.
Wow, that's awesome. Like a little cheat code.
Totally legit, though.
Okay, speaking of things that can mess up your score, we got to talk about the test rules. Duolingo is super serious about cheating. They're watching you through that webcam.
Big Brother is always watching. Actually, Mentor Language Institute's website, they have this story about someone failing the test just because someone else walked into the room.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so rule number 1,
Be alone.
alone, quiet, no distractions.
And don't even look away from the screen.
It's like a reality show. But you win the chance to study or work in an English-speaking environment.
Find a quiet corner. Lock the door. You're the only person on earth for that hour.
Okay, another thing that came up a lot, both Arno and Mentor Language Institute mentioned this. You need a stable internet connection.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No do-overs if your internet goes out.
And speaking of technical must-haves, clear audio is super important, especially for the speaking sections.
A good mic can make a huge difference. You want them to hear you crystal clear.
For sure. So quiet space, good microphone, project your voice like you're talking across the room.
Yeah, you got to minimize those technical issues. Don't let a bad internet connection or a bad mic ruin all your hard work.
Okay, so now we've covered the basics. We've shared some secret tips. It's time to dive into the heart of the matter. The 17 different question types.
Yes, let's break them down.
We're going to tackle those right after this quick break. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Okay, we're back. Ready to tackle these 17 question types. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so knowing what to expect, that's half the battle, right?
For sure. The more you know about what's coming, the less scary it'll feel. So let's start with one that might sound easy, but it can actually be kind of tricky. Fill in the blank questions.
Oh, yeah, those seem pretty straightforward. What's the catch?
Well, it's not just about knowing the word. You got to spell it right, too.
Ah, makes sense. Even if you know what word goes there. If you misspell it, you lose points.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
got to be careful.
Yeah.
And speaking of being careful with words, there are a couple other question types that really test your vocab. Like there's one where you have to choose the actual English word from a bunch of options that look really similar, and another one where you hear a word, and then you got to pick the right spelling.
Oh, wow. So they're making sure you can tell the difference between words that sound alike or look alike.
Exactly. And these actually tie in with one of the question types that people tend to dread the most.
Which one?
Dictation.
Oh, yeah, dictation, where they say a word and you got to type it out.
That's the one. And let me tell you, it's harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
You got to be so focused, catch every single word, and get the spelling, punctuation, grammar all perfect.
It's like a workout for your ears and your fingers at the same time.
Totally. Okay, let's switch gears for a sec and talk about a question type that really focuses on speaking, reading aloud.
Ah, yes. Got to show off those pronunciation skills.
It's more than just pronunciation, though. You got to have good pacing intonation.
Yeah.
Make it sound natural and engaging.
Like you're telling a story.
Exactly. It's about bringing those words to life.
Speaking of bringing things to life, what about those picture description questions?
Yeah, those are fun. You get to be creative with your language. You have to describe what you see in the picture, both in writing and speaking.
All right. And I remember reading on the Mentor Language Institute website that these responses are graded by AI using Duolingo's special algorithm.
That's right. So you got to make sure your grammar is on point, use a variety of vocabulary, and speak clearly and fluently.
It's like a test of your descriptive skills, both written and spoken.
Exactly. And those picture questions are really just a warm-up for the main event.
Yeah.
Writing and speaking in response to a prompt.
Ah, yes. The open-ended questions. This is where you can really show off your skills.
For sure. You have to think critically
Mm-hmm.
and communicate your ideas effectively.
What kind of prompts are there?
Oh, they can be about anything. Agree or disagree with a statement. Share your opinion on something. Talk about a personal experience. Even analyze a short text.
Wow. So it's really testing if you can build a strong argument and support it with evidence.
Exactly. And remember the scoring for these. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it.
Right. Grammar, vocabulary, sentence structure, it all matters.
Okay, so let's talk strategy. For the writing part, Arno recommends starting with a clear thesis statement.
Oh, that's a classic writing tip. It gives your whole response a focus.
Yeah, and once you have your thesis, you got to back it up with evidence and examples.
Right, you got to convince them with your argument.
And for the speaking prompts, the key is to make sure you cover all the points they mention. And speak clearly, fluently. Use good intonation and vocab.
So it's like a conversation, but you're the one doing all the talking.
Pretty much. You got to show them you understand the question and that you can express your thoughts in a clear and engaging way.
Okay, we've covered a lot here, but we still have a few more question types to go.
We do. We'll tackle those right after this quick message. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Ready for the final stretch, those last few question types?
Hit me with it.
Okay, so there's one where you have to fill in missing words in a paragraph.
Oh, like Mad Libs?
Kind of, but with a grammar and vocabulary focus.
So you got to understand how sentences work and pick words that fit the meaning and the grammar.
Exactly. Then there's another one where there's a whole paragraph missing from a longer text, and you have to choose the best option from a few choices.
Ooh, that's interesting. So you have to figure out what fits best, both with the topic and the way the text is organized.
Yep, you got to be a detective. And then there are a couple where you read a short paragraph and choose the best title or headline for it.
Ah, so you're summarizing the main idea in just a few words.
Exactly. You got to get right to the point.
Sure.
Okay, and finally, we have the opinion questions. You get a prompt, and you got to say whether you agree or disagree, both in writing and speaking.
Oh, cool. So you get to share your own thoughts and show off your arguing skills.
Exactly. And remember, they're looking at both what you say and how you say it.
Right. Clear, concise, engaging.
Okay, so with all these different question types, it can feel a little overwhelming, right?
Definitely.
But remember, practice makes perfect. The more you do, the better you'll get. And don't forget about those resources we mentioned, Arno's blog and Mentor Language Institute's website.
Yeah, those are gold mines.
They've got tons of tips, strategies, and practice stuff.
So take advantage of those. Make a study plan. And just keep practicing.
And remember, this test is all about practical skills. Can you understand and use English in real-life situations?
Exactly.
So try to connect what you're learning with your everyday life. Maybe read some English articles or books. Watch some English movies or shows. Even try practicing speaking with someone.
The more you do, the more confident you'll become.
And remember, the Duolingo English Test is just one step on your way to achieving your goals.
It's a tool to help you open doors.
So don't stress too much. Prepare well and believe in yourself.
You got this.
That wraps up another deep dive. We hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring.
Until next time, keep learning.
And keep pushing those boundaries.